Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Amusing Panda live stream, your musing and amusing source for all things War Machine. per Jay Beatnik, keep your briefs on. We were take it just a sec to get started. But this week, I am pleased to be joined by members of the WTC committee. So let's start with Mrs. Evyn Gunther. Come on up, Evyn.
Hello.
How you going? Reintroduce yourself to the folks real quick.
Yes, I am Evyn Gunther. My husband is actually one of the WTC captains this year for Team 4, and I am helping out with the WTC committee
And
this
doing a
year.
bang up job, by the way.
Thank you.
We're gonna later on dive into your collaborative efforts with Joe on putting together data for the community. Speaking
Yes.
of, let's bring up Mr. Tyrants on the field himself.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on, Alex. Excited to be back on the Amusing Panda as always.
Yeah, it's always a treat to have you here. So super thrilled. All right, and last but not least, we got Mr. Hellslinger Brandon Owens, also from the committee. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing great, Alex. How are you?
Doing good. I get a sense of haggardness from the committee. You guys have had a busy couple of months since we all last spoke as a group. So you guys came on post WTC and we're running around like madmen, to put the packet together for application, to put together the charter, get incorporated as a nonprofit, to ensure continuity for US's participation at the WTC, all these things. Having gone through that whole rigmarole, I think we're gonna take a moment to check in and do a debrief. But first and foremost, how are you guys doing on the other side of that whole big process?
I couldn't be happier. The fact that we had over 30 applicants, that we had an incredibly qualified field of applicants, that we had a very transparent process, and that we got community feedback throughout all the points. I am very pleased with where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was really great to just hear from all of the different committee members and the former WTC players and get everyone's different perspectives going through the process. So I think it truly was a community effort to like make this all come to life, which was great.
Yeah. And I love the amount of solicitation you guys were requesting sort of at every step of the process, to make sure that people continued to be involved, that that they were aware of what was going on and making their voices heard. What sort of volume did you guys see to your in response to the various solicitations for feedback?
We saw a decent amount. I mean, it's hard. I think people generally don't necessarily they have opinions, but they don't necessarily want to always voice them.
Right.
So we got probably across our different surveys, like 30 responses in total. But, I still definitely think that's a win, that we were getting any feedback. And we were truly, when we sat down to go through it, we went through it bit by bit. We did not do an aggregated view of anything. Like I read every bit of feedback for the committee. So we went through it piece by piece and we really took everyone's voices into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick to Jay Beatnik. Yes, we did talk to Chris yesterday. So we've got it. Yes, we do have a power couple. Yeah, I happened to because you guys posted the minutes a while back, and I went and read through those, and it seemed like some really intense discussion. Yeah, and that you guys were really keyed in and being finger on the pulse. I will say with regards to like people soliciting feedback. Like, everybody has opinions on politics, but I never once got called by a pollster until I moved to a swing state. And since my time in Arizona, I've been like, oh, screw this. I hate getting asked my opinion now.
Yeah. Well, we definitely just want to always keep the line of communication open, give everyone the opportunity, whether they choose to take it or not, that's up to them. But it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it sounds like there was some quality stuff that really merited discussion. So let's go into some of the lessons learned. So I guess top order things like, one, congratulations to all our captains that we spoke to last night, and then congratulations to you guys for making it through the gauntlet, and congratulations to all our players who made the cut for our 4 teams tentatively.
Yes. All tentative on the main committee allocating the additional 2 teams to us, but we did want to make sure we had those teams selected and in process. That way, if we are granted those teams, they are ready to go and in the process. And if not, we can disband any team that does not get an allocation, and they're still part of the alternate process selection. So excited to have all of the quality teams that we have been able to select through the process. And again, for transparency, we simply set the criteria for how the captains would be selected, and then the captains are selecting their teams on their own. But I do think that the captains knocked it out of the park with their selections across the board. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, I think overall, yeah, we've formed a number of great teams. What was running through my mind is like just thinking about the logistical details you guys put into consideration, and I think a great move in the formation of the new committee and the creation of the process was the inclusion of a WTC global committee liaison. So this year we have Sean Hopkins out of Washington, who's on the global committee, interfacing with you guys on a regular basis. We've seen a number of changes. I know there was, for a minute, like rumors of debate that it may be 7-man teams and how many teams it's going to be, because obviously the global committee is also liaising with the Polish group that's putting on the event. I think we were originally slated for 32 teams, and they've bumped it up to 48. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, everybody who's running events right now is seeing, record attendance numbers, versus the last 5 years or so. The WTC did a bit of a retrenchment after 22 down to 32 teams, and it's really great seeing it come back up and see more countries be involved. So I guess all these WTC teams looking like the 1985 Olympic hockey team of champions. I don't know what that means. Can any of you guys decide?
I can interpret as the resident hockey nut. The 1985 team was when we won, by we, I mean the U.S. Olympics. The U.S. Olympic team won the gold. We also beat the Russians that year, which is the big note on the way to win gold.
Miracle on Ice.
Yes.
Wait, so who's the like Russians in this scenario if the U.S. is looking to have its own Miracle on Ice?
Well, I think we have to put that on the English right now, as they are the defending world champions, still a very good team. Most of that team looks to be intact going into the following year, and it doesn't hurt that they are at least very close friends, if not having him on their team with the lead developer of War Machine and Jamie Perkins. So,
right.
To me, they're they're no pun intended, the dragon to slay right now.
Wait. I mean, more national participation coming back. We're actually going to see dragons come back on the part of Wales, which is exciting too.
Yes. Always excited when the Welsh have a team, although I would rather see that count towards their overall allocation than be separated. But that's a nuance of FIFA rules bleeding into the WTC. So
yeah, I was joking about that last night. that you can tell that this island used to run a global empire, because when any sort of sporting event shows up, they suddenly have huge representation.
yes.
Yeah, Brandon, as somebody who's on a team that's top threat to win it this year, what are your thoughts as to who's the dragon?
I think that last year there were a number of very strong teams there. This year, I anticipate those same countries are going to be sending very strong teams. That said, we're obviously in the middle of a war machine renaissance, like early on, but like dead in the middle of this renaissance. Every country that I've talked to or interacted with related to War Machine, their enthusiasm and engagement level is growing. So who's going to be the dragon this year? I don't know. We'll know after day one who these contenders are when they're crushing it, and we'll be talking about them around the dinner table. I'm just so excited about the level of competition that we have going into 2026. There's not one big boogeyman that we have to beat. We have to beat everybody, and that's the most exciting place for players to be on teams, and also for everybody who's following along at home.
Yeah,
I know that's like a non-answer, and it's probably very unsatisfying for you, but
I mean, everybody knows in their heads who this is. Like, we're looking at the Polish with being home turf this year. We're looking at the English, obviously. We're looking at the Australians, who, if I'm perfectly honest, have won it enough times already. Yeah, the Swedes, the Germans, and honestly, there are so many like really great players in our global community, and I'm really thrilled to see a lot of nations that like were either sleepers or not necessarily considered in that running position, that are cultivating new and returning talent, such that like out of 48 teams, it might be a scary year. On a lot of unexpected fronts. I think given the pool that we've wound up with this year from the USA, I also wouldn't be surprised, like, if we were doing this episode with bigger, poofier mustaches and and British Army uniforms, we might be saying the US is the dragon. So I guess I want to get into the process and the background that made all these teams together. So what are you guys have been on this case, honestly, like longer pretty much than anyone else in the community. What are some guys what are some challenges you guys encountered in the run-up to the formation of the interim committee, the publishing of the various packets, etc.? What were some challenges that you maybe didn't see coming in putting together the rules for the whole USA endeavor?
It's a good
I can
question.
start us
question.
off.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brendan.
I think one challenge that we did see coming, but proved perhaps to be more challenging than we anticipated, was the need and very clear goal that we had to balance our desire to reward experience and past performance in the way that we sculpted the application and points process, while not excluding the possibility of new blood making it onto teams. One thing we agreed on early on is that we wanted the process to select people or place people in that pool of 30 applicants based on their likelihood to perform well at WTC. And one of the best indicators that we have for that is past performance at a number of different like competitive events, and especially at WTC. But our other goal that we're balancing this with, like, we talked about a lot, right, is that we wanted to make sure there was a path for new blood to get onto the WTC teams, and finding that balance point between the two when you're just dealing with numbers, particularly when it's a questionnaire or data set that we don't have the opportunity to validate before establishing, was really difficult. And we spent a lot of our time and got a lot of very good feedback from the community, and spent a lot of our time talking about that, making some large adjustments, some small micro adjustments to try to chase that goal. And I think ultimately we landed really close to where we want to be. And that's very exciting. But that was, I think, a very big challenge that we spent a lot of time and energy on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Evyn, how about for you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it was definitely one challenge in a good way, was trying to balance what the community was asking for, and also trying to like be unbiased and not like and take a very fair assessment of the people who would be applying and the people who were aspiring to apply. So we just wanted to make sure we were balancing all of the different aspects of that, while still taking the community feedback very seriously and understanding what everyone was asking for.
Right. Yeah. You know, Brandon suggested this as an item, but I know I've spent it, especially as Brandon and I have gone into tournament live streaming, talking about War Machine as an oral tradition game, that a lot of people like inherit the rule book by word of mouth. But when somebody has to actually resolve a slam power attack, like, they have no idea what to do. Boy, I can only imagine, given the backdrop of our game being this, what was it like to get 30 plus people to actually read a packet you guys put a lot of tender love and care into?
Well, Alex, that's about as hard as you can imagine. As we all know, War Machine players are illiterate by choice. So we're all very smart people. Like, some of the smartest people I know play this game, and some of the worst readers. And that held true during the application process. I will say, I congratulate.
I noticed there was like the dummy check of you have to include your Longshanks ID in there. Like,
yeah, I can tell you that didn't happen for everyone.
Reading is caring, but I appreciate everybody that took the time to fill out the application, sometimes several times.
Yes.
Yeah, the bottom line, Alex, is that we set up this process to be inclusive, not exclusive. So when somebody submitted an application or resume that clearly indicated they didn't read the rules, we're not out here to say, you took your one shot, you did it wrong, next, like, wait for next year. I spent a lot of time, and I'm not the only one, but I spent a lot of time corresponding with people, answering questions, and they'd ask me a question, and I would say, did you read the document? They say, oh, no. And I cut and paste the paragraph for them. They say, okay, thanks. And then the next question, did you read the document? So there was a lot of hand holding. But the bottom line is we wanted people to submit and to put their best foot forward, so that if they were qualified for the pool, that they would be in the pool. And if a captain was selected, they would be able to consider this person to the best of, or in the best light that they could. And to that end, Evyn did an incredible amount of work validating every single application, because that was one of our goals, was to validate the applications and resumes based on Longshanks data, to make sure both that people didn't include, or that people weren't given credit for things that we were excluding for certain types of events, and that people got credit for all events they went to, even if they were really bad at reading their own Longshanks history and submitting it. And I don't know what the split is on this, but Evyn went through everybody, and there were a ton of people who got something wrong. And I felt like most people left out events that changed them in a tier on a points tier on one of the questions that should have been in there. And Evyn had to go back and identify that, and she very organized, had a spreadsheet, and it made it real easy to track everything. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of work there because people not only couldn't read the document, they couldn't read their own Longshanks history.
Yeah, that's and I mean, we talked about this last night when interviewing the captains that we have this this unprecedented age of, you know, like digital paper trails and digitization and participation. We get much better stats, you know, we have access to our history. Although I kept very poor records on my 2024, but like in the past, you know, what I'd had to do if I didn't meticulously record everything, I lose so many games they put my record on short shanks. You and me both, buddy.
I'm sorry, that comment is a winner. JP, think you can retire now. That you win. You win the internet.
But yeah, there's you know, and like I remember, you know, the first year I went was in 2017, which was like a very different ball game, you know, as far as retrieving events. Like you were trawling Facebook and you had to talk to somebody who knows, and maybe they had a DOU output or something. Evyn, talk to us about the process of validation, because that's something brand new. What did that look like for you, and what were the challenges there?
It looked like me sitting at a table at Captain Con for about 10 hours.
Oh man.
Sorting through different Longshanks, but it really wasn't that bad. It took a couple of days to for me get used to Longshanks. I'm not a player, so I'm not in there very often. So getting used to that, and then also going through and really making sure that I was understanding, you know, the different players' histories. For those who aren't necessarily, like, I'm not familiar with all the events that happen in, say, Texas. So making sure that I was understanding, you know, is this actually a pinnacle event for Texas? And making sure that the players get the credit where they really earned it.
Yeah. I love, by the way, the categorization system that you guys had. You know, one, that there was a broader acknowledgement of standing and institutionally solid team tournaments. You know, that it was Boker Brawl and it was Dragon's Fury and it was ATC. Like, you know, these are people who organize and put their stuff together and show up year on year, and these have a reputation inside the community. And then the distinction between pinnacle events and sort of creating, like, in very good language, a wrapper for, like, hey, here's an event of consequence that people are going to know about, and, you know, we're going to do it in a generic but also extremely fair way. And then I forget what the other one was, but essentially the invitationals equivalent, which I feel is great for, like, one thing about this game. Like, our national circuit actually used to be replete with regional circuits too. You know, King of Coins being the big one. I know the Florida area had one. Brandon and I think our first big COVID tournament was going out to Wits in Indianapolis, and we all got there and discovered, you know, that this was a long running, like, upper Northwest, you know, regional circuit, and that they had these, like, wonderfully made, like, you know, granite, like, tablets with, like, best sportsman, mage hunter, first place, stuff like that. Like, damn, that's cool. So I love that.
That Wits tournament, I sure did not play well, but apparently I was very nice. So I got the sportsmanship award. And I remember going through airport security on the way back with this literal just like granite brick in my carry-on bag, because I only did carry-on for that trip. And the TSA people at the security screening like pulled the bag aside and they looked at it and they're like, they read the best sportsmanship. They're like, so you didn't win, huh? And I'm like, no. Then we moved on. But it was very heavy.
Yeah, that thing I put up on my mantle, and I have no worries about that guy going anywhere. Okay, so actually here's a weird one. if I may ask, what was the most margin of points that somebody underrated themselves in putting together their their self survey?
Ooh, I don't have an exact number, but not off the top of my head anyway, but I believe for the most part people ranged within like 6 points, either up
Wow.
or down. So
That's a wide margin.
mhm.
From what I
Yeah.
recall looking at it, a very common mistake was somebody counting an event as a second place podium finish when in fact it was a first place. And so in several of those, it would move somebody's tier for the first place question up to the next scoring tier and move their second place question down to the lowest scoring tier. So they'd get a net bonus. And I would just be sitting there wondering, how did you think this was a second place when it was a first? I didn't understand it, but it happened more than once. So it must be an easy mistake to make.
There were
I
also
guess
some
so.
people who they didn't count an event. They kind of self-selected it out or didn't remember it, and then that bumped them up a tier as well on some of those first, second, or third place finishes.
Mm-hmm. I will say there have been two things this selection process has got me off my ass to do. One of which is a Brandon suggestion, like just log your qualifier finishes, bro. Because like I definitely go through years where I don't track it, and it's always a pain in my butt because Longshanks doesn't keep in your record most things for like a year, but there are ways of discovering them. The other is logging my individual games. I used to do this way back in the day for just like personal performance, and now I'm really seeing the value of like taking stock and thinking, you know, having the ability to recall in great detail how the year went for me.
Can I make a community request to anybody out there who either has some knowledge or ability in programming or knows somebody who does? Do you remember the app Iron Grudge?
Oh yeah.
I used to log my games in Iron Grudge, and I loved it because I could go back and look at some of the same data you get from Longshanks, but for all my games, like how often did I win going second versus going first with this list? How often did I like lose on this scenario if I had to go first, or on this scenario with this list? All kinds of data, like matchup data, everything. And it was real easy to use. It was on your phone. There were a bunch of drop-down menus. It was great. It wasn't updated in Mark IV. I understand people move on or they don't want to do a thing anymore. They stop playing. I would love, 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 love to get an app like that back for Mark IV, because Longshanks is fantastic for anything that gets reported to Longshanks. But if you want that data for practice games and casual games, it can be really useful. And I don't want to have to go in and like fill in a spreadsheet when I could have an app to do it.
Mhm.
That's all. That's my request.
Sure.
I pay for it too.
Dan Riker
buy that app.
Dan Riker would love a new odds machine app as well. Man, like the standard like boost mechanics make that pretty easy, but like War Machine has a lot of edge cases that make it very complicated. To be honest, I've had best results like for going for War Machine odds in complex situations just going to AI.
Gabe, I think a lot of people would be willing to pay for a game tracking app.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about a subscription. I hate subscriptions for apps, but give it a one-time cost. I'll pay it. I'm sure plenty of other people would too.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's circle back from from sort of game tracking, which, by the way, Evan, heroic effort on that, you know, reconciling, truing up the points and giving people like their worth even when they didn't think they earned it. So let's talk about you know, the actual execution of the process. So we're looking at, you know, meetings for you guys, you know, like I said, I've read the minutes reports. You know, what did that look like for you guys? Like, okay, you sit down and there's, you know, the five of you plus Sean, and you're like, okay, we got to make new committee charter and do all these things. And that's a fine idea to have in your head or on, you know, on words on a page in front of you. but to actually do it is another thing entirely. So what did you guys hit as some challenge points to making this whole institutional endeavor come together?
It was a lot of collaboration and a lot of heated debate at points. That was just all about ensuring that we were working in the spirit in which this was intended, which is to, one, create a long-term solution for being able to have an as fair as process as possible for the generation of the captain selectancy, that there was enough agency for the captains to be able to select their teams, craft their teams, which we've proven year over year is the best way to have performance at the event. And to do so in a way where we weren't scrambling the following year to rebuild everything again. And so there was a lot of care and a lot of passion on all sides of the committee in trying to make sure that we put this thing together as best we could. And a lot of effort. Brandon did a lot of the wordsmithing on the charter itself. There was a lot of input. There was a lot of back and forth between myself, Brandon, and other members of the committee who were strongly opinionated on certain pieces. In many cases, we were, at one point, we're talking past each other but saying the same thing, and it was just a matter of slowing down and working through our common points to really realize we're really saying the same thing. We just have different ideas on the knobs we want to turn. And so it was a wonderful process of collaboration, a lot of meetings that were going to be an hour that ended up being 2 or 3. So
I was going to say, what's the biggest marathon session you guys had?
And then Evyn has been an absolute gold star through the entire process for us. So in terms of support, making sure we're on track, Brandon the same way, making sure everybody's tasks are getting done. So it has been wonderful to work with this committee and get us to the stage that we're at, which is going to be, we have to come up with a selection criteria for the next committee because we're just an interim committee at this point.
Right. Yeah. How long do you guys have before you're looking at finalizing those criteria?
Well, we want to make sure that the current teams that are selected are set up for success. So we're going to focus on making sure that, the discords are set up and that everyone's aware of the expectations going into the year. But once that's done, we'll start. I have a meeting with Zosha actually later this week to talk with her about some of the finer details, bank accounts and stuff like that. And then we'll have another meeting to discuss, what we want the application process for the new committee to look like.
That poor woman, she dragged the entire nation to WTC after WTC, finally steps down and she just can't stay away.
Yeah. Hey, she has institutional knowledge, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brandon.
That's all right. One thing that we talked about last year when we ended up pushing our deadline to get the selection or team formation process finished was that we, as the interim committee, it was our priority to see the team formation for 2026 to the finish line. So before we were really ever going to any kind of process for selecting the normal committee or not permanent committee, but the non-interim committee, we wanted to make sure we put all of our energy into getting the team formation process completed, the teams formed, the teams registered and paid up with the global committee, and all of that done, because that's the reason the committee exists, is to send the teams to WTC. And as we just talked about, it has been a whirlwind of activity nonstop. And I'll tell you this brief aside, the one thing that was not a challenge was working with the other committee members. Everyone on the committee was super hardworking, dedicated, interested, involved. And we had a lot of meetings, and many of them went well over the scheduled time, but there was never any wasted time. They only ever did because we were talking about things that we needed to talk about in a productive way, quite often we didn't anticipate those being a topic, or that the topic would be so involved, because we were sort of just building this from scratch, right?
Yeah.
But everybody was very invested and worked together super well. So I was really, really pleased and happy to work with you guys. That said, it's been a lot of time and energy. I know Evyn said earlier, when you were asking her what it looked like validating applications, oh, it was just 10 hours at a table while everyone else was having fun and playing games. No big deal. It's a huge deal. 10 hours of unpaid volunteer time looking through like internet tournament history results and comparing them to people's resumes. And that's not even like the most time consuming thing that she did during this whole process. So if anybody's wondering, like, when are we going to see the new like voting process for the committee, understand just how much work we've been putting into getting the process done. And that once we're finished with that, then we will focus on the next committee. And will any of us even want to be on it after all the work that we've done? Who knows? But we're looking forward to getting that process established.
So there's a natural follow-on question there, which is, any next committee, just like this one, looking back at Zosha, is going to have some pretty big boots to fill. And it's a remarkable thing that, year on year, you guys have been, that you have pushed us across the finish line with aplomb. For people who are curious about getting involved and putting their name forward, and I would say really taking on this opportunity to be of service to the U.S. community, what would you say to them, and what would you say, like, what would you say should be your attitude throwing your hat into the ring for the next committee?
Yeah. Well, in terms of like throwing your hat in, we'll make sure to communicate everything the same way we've been communicating across the board. So nothing will be a surprise. But in terms of attitude, I would say just like be open-minded as hell. Like, you're working with a lot of different people, all of which have a lot of different backgrounds, and that's really important and like really crucial to the success that the committee has had. But you also have to be willing to roll with the punches, be willing to like listen and, take a minute. So
we got Chris in the chat, wifed up a champion of data. She was in the corner with a dog for 10 hours. Oh man. Brandon, Joe, anything for those who are looking to, thinking about throwing their hat in the ring, anything for them to consider?
I think going into it, make sure you understand that being on the committee is being in a position of service, and you're serving the player base, both the community of competitive players that aspire to WTC and play at WTC, and the player base at large. And one really important thing to remember is that we spend a lot of time asking questions of and listening to the feedback of those players. One thing that we did is we wrote into the charter that basically captains emeritus have voting rights for the formation process. And by captains emeritus, I mean the captains of the WTC teams from the previous year and from the previous 2 years, essentially. And that was really important because not only did we have them vote on the process to make sure we had a sanity check with people who intimately understand both forming WTC teams and attending the event, but we wanted their specific feedback as well. And we got some very good detailed feedback from former captains, former players, because we solicited the entire public and a lot of other people who hadn't been as well. And one of the most important things that we did, I think, throughout the entire process was listen to our players and consider their feedback. We made so many changes based on player feedback.
Yeah. Making sure that you're open to feedback during the process. Two, that when you're going into it, service mindset, 100%. That is what we're doing, is serving the community. And making sure that when you're doing this, you're thinking as long term as possible. The decisions that you make on this committee have a lot of long term impact in terms of setting precedent, in terms of setting up the success for the system, not just this year, but in the years to follow. And we want to make this as robust and as bulletproof, for lack of a better term, as possible, so that no matter who's on the committees going forward, they understand what they're trying to do, which is give the United States the best chance to win at this event and to have our players have the best experience they can at this event. As little difficulty as possible. We want to really take a lot of that logistical burden off the players as much as possible, and ensure that we have great standing in the global community of War Machine. So that's these I know are the priorities of the committee as a whole, as we formed this, and I would hope that these would be the priorities as we continue to move forward with it.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a very much you're in a you got to be service oriented and low ego, no ego, and it's almost like intergenerational wealth management, or like running a sovereign wealth fund. Like, no, we're not thinking quarterly. We're thinking like next 100 years. I'm gonna go a little out of order because I think the next step is to dive into this wonderful presentation before we go into how you guys feel coming out the other end and final thoughts. So let's go ahead and kick this over. Joe, you informed me that this is a work of love between you and Evyn getting this together and really getting statistical strong points in front of people. So talk us through what we're seeing for WTC applicants and the key takeaway here.
Yeah, I can handle this slide. So the big things that we really recognized at the end of this, we wanted to understand kind of a little bit more about the applicant pool themselves. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't just, when we were looking at the players who had no WTC experience, like, were they a significant portion of the pool? What was, or was the pool majority WTC? So we did see that, about 75% of the applicants have had previous WTC experience. So, it kind of negates any thought that there's like an old boys club. Those are the people who applied. And then we did have 25% of applicants who had no WTC experience. That includes alternates as well. So, and of those, a third of them were selected, which is awesome. It was really cool to see that, of the 9 applicants who applied with no WTC experience, 3 did make it onto teams, as well as 1 being a previous alternate. So showing that that is a very, very viable path to being on a WTC team. And then another, I think, big point we saw was that a lot of the players who were selected this year had a really good history. Like, over the last 2 years, they had very strong placement in what we had called pinnacle events. You can see the numbers in that chart. You've got, even if you were, yes, the unselected players, it's 10 to 20, but like, when you're looking at those numbers, even if you were to double the unselected players, the Team 2026 dominated. So
yeah, it's an incredibly strong record. And something that's in there, so 75% of applicants have been to the WTC before. I love the participation from players who have not, but this 75% number, like the 25%, I think sells itself, and the success record of those players getting onto teams, their proven track record, etc., is all great news. But the 75% hides a hidden gem, which is these tend to be kind of obsessives. These are people who have it like just a burning fire in their soul. Like, I am so in this game. am all about climbing this mountain with no top, and just figuring out how far the game goes, and pushing it to its utmost, pushing myself to my utmost. These people have a fire in them, and like it's the kind of thing where I think the 25% also has the fire in them. But like, I think what leads to a lot of the same people wanting to go over and over again is like an awakening and a true love of competition that I'm really excited to share with the rest of the community. So, I think it's a bit of an odd take on this number, but I think it's going to be a big thing for us to expand this, the spiritual circle of people who are looking like that.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, the 75% and the fact that a good portion of those were obviously then selected, it gives those applicants who don't have any WTC experience going in the new year and into this new year, and this WTC, it gives them really good sources for mentorship. Like they've got a ton of players and people who have experience going to guide them.
Yeah. Guys like Peyton, who's a first timer, or guys like Ryan, who's a first timer. I'm so excited for them. And Ike, who's a first time on a main team. I love that I get to be on a team with that guy. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the first slide before we click on?
Well, I think one thing that's not to be lost in this is that only 56 of the players that applied were part of WTC in 24 and 25. The full 75% represents former players from 23, 22, 21, and 20. So there are, so there's a wealth of long-term experience that also applied for WTC, and not just the same folks that were there in 24 and 25. Although we have had some good continuity on a few of the teams where we've had success, as we did have a third placement in 24 and a second placement last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Ikerman's participation is pre-pandemic. So yeah, we got a wide range.
Yeah.
All right, let's kick over to the competitive applicant pool. So we're looking at here, distribution of total scores indicates a competitive environment. Joe, take us through what this means.
So what this means is looking at our total points distribution on the application itself. You could score between 1 and 51. That's our range. Of all of the 33 applicants we had, the median score, meaning your average score, was 29. So well above what we would expect on a 51-point scale, all things being equal. So these really were some of the best players in War Machine applying from a competitive standpoint from the 2024-2025 season, in terms of how their score is represented. So the application, I think, is showing that the right pool of applicants are number one applying, and they're getting credit for what they did over those years, as long as they put the numbers in correctly. But it shows that U.S. War Machine is in a very good spot in terms of the type of player that we have in our pool to even consider for consideration for sending to the WTC.
Right. Yeah. That in the main, they're going to be outliers like Jake and like Brandon and like Rick and like Justin that, score astronomically high. I think did Jake wind up scoring the maximum?
Maximum was 75 points.
Okay, theoretical maximum was 75, but
theoretical maximum was 75. I believe he scored 51.
Yeah, that's got to be otherworldly to get even close to 75.
He's getting it next year.
You would have had to win WTC first place 2 years in a row, plus win 13 or more first places in that 2 years, 13 or more second places, 13 or more third places, and win a 5-person team event. You would have had to do all those things in 2 years to get the theoretical maximum, which to my knowledge, nobody has done yet. So.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to. It's happening.
yeah. I think 2 years from now, like our player pool could see a 75. But so I think you're absolutely right. Like the clustering, we do have outlier strong players, but the clustering does definitely indicate a community that is like really battling hard and showing just like, and any given day kind of distribution here. So I think that's great.
You can go on to the next slide.
All right. So we're looking at high level of player activity and commitment. This is the kind of thing I love to see. Talk to me about what we got going on here.
So one of the data points that I found incredibly helpful in this and looking at the data post application was our community really loves to play War Machine and really loves to travel. 62.5% of our applicants attended 13 or more events between January 2024 and December 2025. That's a huge amount of travel. That's essentially 7 events a year on the average. So they're getting out and they're playing high-level War Machine at high-level events. And they are dedicated to it. And then our next highest grouping is 10 to 12 over that same time frame. So we are definitely clustered in a very high number of average games for our participants. Additionally, when we look at rated games in Longshanks, the bulk of our players have over 100 rated games on average in Longshanks.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that they are at verified events that are rating the players, and they are gathering those wins from those events, be they online or in person. But you're playing a lot of just rated games on top of all of the other practice games that aren't being added into a Longshanks, but could be added into an application if somebody were to design one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking last night on the Meet the Captains about sort of the oh my gosh, my dog is having a wild time. About the mathematics that go into your practice and rep cycle, and if hitting 100 games is like shockingly easy to do. Hitting 200 plus games is like, it's still doable, but it takes some work. So if you're looking at 100 rated games, so you're talking tournaments, conventions, online leagues, if you figure, that your median player is, if your median applicant or just above your median applicant is turning in about 100 games a year or thereabouts, that means with like local play and friendly games, practice games, stuff like that, like you're expecting them to be over 200 games a year by the numbers there, right?
100%, because again, these are just the rated ones. And again, last year, because of event sizes, a typical event was 3 rounds. So all of these players played over 30 events to get to that 100 rated game mark, just based on how the numbers work out.
Right.
There. So I think this year you're going to have I think you're going to see those numbers inflate because we're going to have more rounds. Captain Con has already shown we're going to have more rounds.
Yeah.
And I think Adepticon is looking like a 6 or 7 rounder. So.
Yeah, you were saying in the pre-show that that we had gone from we had doubled the number of rated games. Is that right? Like just as a community?
So I looked at the numbers between January 22nd last year and February 10th last year, And that same time frame this year, and the reason that date is significant is because that's when the update dropped. There were 492 games played that were rated in 2024. In 2025. In 2026, for the same time frame, January 2nd to February 10th, there have been 892 rated games in Longshanks over that same time frame. So a near doubling of rated games for the same time frame with the same conditions. People are playing a lot more War Machine than they were a year ago. And I expect that trend to continue this year. I think the game's in a great spot. I think the update was very invigorating. We're in a Wild West period of sorts, which is always exciting, but we are always in a Wild West period post update. But the fact that we've had such a huge gain in games played in this small time frame, I think really bodes well for this being an incredible year of War Machine.
Yeah. And for anyone who's been watching like registration figures for pick your favorite event, you are seeing these fill up so fast. Like I had friend of the show, Jeff, Zach, and I were talking about Dragon's Fury this year. And I was talking, we were talking about like, yeah, we've got so many friends the country over who are really expanding their retinue. And this is a WTC considered team tournament event. Like, you better tell JC to increase his registration cap because I think he's going to need it.
Yeah, people are hungry to play, and it's a very exciting time for the competitive community in War Machine.
Yeah,
and you can jump to our last slide, I think, which is my favorite slide.
Oh man, yeah, this is a big number.
So one of the things
I need you to take this for a minute. I gotta run and attend something animal related, but I'll be right back.
No worries. One of the things that we as a committee have been very dedicated to is making sure that alternates get their place and their due, because they're such an important part of the teams that we send to WTC. From our applicant pool, 72% of applicants indicated that they would be willing to be an alternate this year. Anecdotally, from my understanding, this is the highest percentage we've had of folks that have indicated they were willing to do so. So I think it speaks incredibly well to the state of competitive play, the state of understanding of what alternates mean to the WTC teams in terms of having that sixth person to get quality games in, to ensure that we have a backup against an illness or a life circumstance that happens at the event or leading into the event, that we're prepared and ready to be as prepared as possible to play the best War Machine possible, and then go on and podium at Solo Masters if they're not needed as the actual alternate place person. But I think it speaks to the integrity and the willingness to win of this community that 72% of our applicants indicated they would like to be a WTC alternate if they were not picked, and that to me is a stat that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, this is a big winner. Like, it's actually going back to that, like, sort of that real hunger for and passion for the game. Because I know when I submitted my application, my resume was like, in whatever capacity I am best suited to contribute to my nation, like whether that's playing, whether that's alternate, whether that's coaching, I'm going to be there 100%, because I'm all in for this community and I'm all in for this game. And I'm so glad to see that sentiment is pretty dang widespread. All right. Brandon, Evyn, any closeouts for you on that wonderful deck there?
Well, thank you again, Evyn and Joe, for not only mining those statistics or those data points, but putting them into an excellent slide deck. Having resident data nerds on the committee is a wonderful asset, particularly because I'm not and can't do those things. So I really appreciate having you guys there, because I think it communicates some of the really important messages in a very easy to understand way. And so for me and for all of us on the committee, we had some very explicit goals going into this, and we talked about those early on. We wanted to make sure that we were getting the people who have the most experience and his best history performance selected, because that's the best indicator of performance at WTC. And the data shows that when we look at how many podiums that the 2026 teams have had relative to the applicant pool. So we're getting the people with the most, the best performance on teams. Very important. And it also shows that we're getting fresh blood and that we have a clear path onto a team for first timers, which was just as important a goal for us in the process. And then my favorite data point is the alternate data point. When I asked these guys to mine that data, and when I saw that number, I like jumped out of my seat with excitement, because it is such a synergistic there's such a synergistic benefit between alternates and their teams, in that, and Joe covered a lot of this. It's not just having the alternate there for the team. It's having that sixth man or woman there, the sixth person, that sixth player, to be a part of the process with the team the whole time. If you think of each player on a team as like a separate like CPU in a computer, or like a separate core or whatever, like the more of those you have, the more you can do. And adding that sixth player just adds so much to the team's ability to explore different matchups, to problem solve and troubleshoot, and just get better as a team. And then in the process of doing that, this alternate player also gained so much experience and improved so much as a player throughout the year, that to me and to all of us, it's just such an obvious win-win, that we really wanted to incentivize and encourage players to be to be alternates in an official capacity. Because in the past, it's just been teams are formed, and then the team will get together and say, hey, do you want Jimmy to be our alternate? Because they're all friends with Jimmy, and Jimmy's willing to go to Europe. And like, yeah, does he want to do it? And then Jimmy's like, hell yeah, I'll go to Europe, right? And it's still super valuable, but we wanted there to be a part of our like desire to have a path onto a team, is that players should be given an opportunity to be an alternate based on how well they've performed as well, not just to be on the main team. So we haven't gotten to this part of the process yet, because like Joe mentioned earlier, or Evyn mentioned earlier, we're waiting to find out exactly how many teams we get allotted from the global committee, because we want to make sure that if somebody is on team 3 or team 4, and if the unfortunate situation occurs that we don't get a third or a fourth team, we want those players who checked yes for the alternate box to still have their chance to be considered for alternates. Mm-hmm. So once we have that allotment, we're going to rank all of the players who checked yes, all that 72% of players who didn't make a team. They're going to be ranked according to their scores as well. And I have to double check the formation document. I think it's the top 6 players who check the box are going to be eligible to be chosen as alternates. So team 1 will choose their alternate from that top 6. Since we have 4 teams this year, we might go and add some, like 2 more people to that. One of the ratios that we've tried to use in this process is essentially double the number of players on teams for eligibility pools. So in this case, like there's only 1 alternate on a team, and if there were 3 teams, 6 made sense. But the bottom line is we want players who performed better than other players to be in consideration first for alternate, because it is such a benefit. And we don't want it to just go to somebody because they're so-and-so's friend, even though they aren't as qualified as somebody else. So seeing that 72% number has me so excited, because to me, it shows that the community and the player base is also valuing the alternate experience and the alternate contribution. And I think that's critical moving forward. So I'm over the moon over that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, well, I guess that segues us into into the last one for our committee representatives. How are you guys feeling about how the whole process went? Soup to nuts. There's still some pendings and some asterisks, but yeah, how are you guys feeling coming out for now, the other side of it?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy it's done.
Fair enough.
But as I am also like I am really, really happy with honestly how smoothly the process went. I feel like we took the time that we needed on the front end to make sure that we set ourselves up for success going into this. And it made, you know, even the validation process and all, like it made everything so much smoother
Right.
to have set all that up early. And we had a great team working together. Like honestly, it was really, really awesome to work with everyone and bounce questions, bounce ideas, and thoughts off of each other. It just made it so much easier.
Yeah, love to hear it. Love to hear it that that such a group of talented people came together and got on so well together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hit all of our major goals and objectives for the process, and we exceeded a lot of them too. I know going into the selection process, when we open up applications, my estimate was 25 to 30 applicants, and we ended up getting, I think, 33 by the end.
Yep.
So we exceeded my expectations for how many applicants we were going to get, and then just the caliber of the applicants, the diversity of the applicant pool, and then the way that the teams ended up being formed in terms of how the captains went through the process of selecting their players. I had a front row seat to all of them. Not all of the captains told me, you know, who they were considering or why, but anybody who's plugged into the community is going to be like snooping around and like asking people like, have you talked to so and so? Like, did anybody hear from this person? And the overwhelming impression that I got is that every single captain was really, really taking their time and trying to consider who to pick. And then also just corresponding with the captains as committee members, notifying them that they were selected as captain, and then, you know, answering their questions and waiting for them to come in with the final team that they formed. It was readily apparent that they all were very invested in making the right decisions to form the best team that they could. And I think the results show that. And I was very pleased and excited that when we formed 4 teams, we had 4 captains who took their role very seriously and did a very good job, I think, in forming winning teams for the US.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very happy with how the process went. Very excited for how the captains' teams ended up as a whole. I think in most cases they got it more right than not. And I love the fact that we have a highly transparent, data-driven process for the first time in a long time in this. And I think that that's something that we can be very proud of and can be very sustainable. And we just refine as we move forward.
Yeah, the transparency is a big, big winner because, you know, as much of a mystique as the WTC has, it also has, you know, a history of like, do we really know what's going on with this? I mean, you always know who's doing well, but, you know, you love to see the community kept in the loop, you know, essentially every step of the way. So I think this has been, you guys have been doing your nation proud and really setting a tough act to follow. Let me see. So yeah, any other like last thoughts on the WTC stuff before you know, I do want to give Evyn and Brandon, you know, a chance to, you know, get the last stuff off their chest before Joe and I go into some real data nerdery for figuring out where we are in this freaking game.
No, I'm good. It was great working with everyone. I'm really happy that we got such positive response from everything, and we're excited to see how the teams do and help them get there.
Yeah, echo that. And just a reminder to everybody out there that if you have some piece of feedback or a question, always feel free to message any of us. We just because the application or the team formation process is closed doesn't mean that we're not still happy to field questions, to talk to people, and to take suggestions, because overwhelmingly, this was a learning process for all of us, as you would expect. And it's going to continue to be that. Our goal is to iterate and improve the process as much as we can for as long as we're involved. So you can still reach out to us. If you want to reach out to Evyn or Joe and say, hey, great job with validating applications. Thank you for all the time that you devoted to this for free.
Please do those things.
With
Yes,
no
do those things.
appreciation while your husband is playing games at a convention. Like, go ahead and do that. And if you just want to ask a question or give a suggestion, we're always open and willing and happy to receive those from you.
Yeah.
I will say the Facebook page, you can always utilize that as a way of reaching out to us if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to us directly. And the WTC email is also on the Facebook page. So.
Yep.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you'd like to bow out, now's the perfect time. And Joe, let's get nerdy talking about
Oh
stats.
boy, my favorite thing in the world. Let's get into it, because this meta is wild, Cosmo.
Yeah. So I took the liberty of pulling up the Longshanks just with sort of basic details here, so looking at rated games between now and the rules release. But I guess you've done an even deeper dive. So tell us about how things are going crazy right now, because we are very much in land of small sample sizes. Devourer's Host topping an 86% win rate over 7 games.
Now, to be fair, that is more games than I think Devourer's Host was played all of last year. So let's give it up to people even pulling out their circle.
Yeah.
Convergence, same thing. Convergence with a 75% win rate and 11 games played. Pretty certain that may have been their entirety of 2025.
Yeah, I think I saw them once ever and then never again.
I saw them once at a steamroller over in Canada, and it went about as well as you expected. So I won that game, and the player had made 2 dice rolls.
Oof. But so when we look at these like top placing factions, they have less than 24 games between them. And then we see Infernals, which I think Infernals is going to remain a metagame staple. And then we get into the new Prime armies and we start doing big numbers. Old Umbry 265, Storm Legion 117, Necrofactorium 181, Gravediggers nearly 200, Shadowflame over 200, Brinebloods over 100, Dusk over 200, Winter Core almost 250. Sea Raiders over 200. Man, those Prime factions doing numbers in a very short period of time.
Yeah, and Umbry doing the most of those is really significant. Almost 300 games played. And Umbry continues to just be an outsized force in the meta from a win rate standpoint. So not only do they have the most games played, they also have the highest win rate of the Prime or the Mark IV Prime armies. And this time they're doing it with completely different casters. You have Yana, who is taking up the mantle of the best caster in the faction with a 68% win rate. It turns out
a huge number of games too.
Yes, 78 games
for a
played.
caster that saw almost no play last year is impressive.
Yeah, well, she had quite the glow up, getting a very relevant spell in Windwall, and being in Umbry and having the tools to make her one of the most survivable casters in the game does a lot to improve her win rate into a meta that is increasingly hostile to non-ranged opponents, and yet she is about as unranged as you can get and is performing incredibly well. Part of it is Morozov is also helping to take some of the ranged pressure off of her, and Morozov also with 67 games played and a 60% win rate. Really, that pairing gives you the paradigm of better than a puncher's chance into some of these gun lines. The only outlier being Kishtar. When you look at the actual numbers, Kishtar is absolutely eating Morozov's lunch and is eating Old Umbree's lunch in total. I think there's a 33% win rate for Old Umbree into Kishtar.
Wild.
And a 50% win rate into the faction, into Sea Raiders as a whole. When you pop into it,
dig that up. Yeah. It looks like it's it's gone up some.
Yeah, for your time frame, it may be a little bit more. On mine, where I was looking today, it was at a pure 50. But it's possible possible there were some games played today that have jumped through. But anyway, Old Umbree is in a very interesting spot meta wise. Very, very strong. The caster pairing is very strong, but if you look at the other casters that have fewer games played, they're still all at least a 50% win rate.
Yeah, with the exception of Galena, who's falling like below. I think this is like within the margin of error. Her clocking it at 47%.
Yeah, she might as well be a 50% win rate.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Ryan Chiraboga has often said that your ideal balance point is like your factions and your casters being in a band between 45 and 55.
Yeah.
So this I'm comfortable saying is about right. Lesnoy, this guy I think has potential to turn into an absolute metagame monster.
Yes.
And I mean, recently we saw Keith Christensen take down 5 rounds, going 4 of them with Lesnoy into some lists you wouldn't think he would be good into.
It turns out Insight's still an amazing spell.
It's even better now that there was ostensibly a lethality drop. Lesnoy is like, what do you mean hit and damage values got lower? I haven't noticed.
And it's unsurprising to me that Keith would see Val 3 and be like, yeah, I'm going to play that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, yeah. Any other thoughts on Old Umbree? Because for me, one of the surprises actually is not necessarily Aslanov's current win rate, but his low usage rate. Because I have heard people saying he's still faction essential, but like not necessarily putting in the reps with him,
So Aslanov is in an odd spot. Part of the biggest issue for him is not his toolkit and not really the meta. It's that the packet is very hostile to control 12 casters. And if you have a control 14 caster, you have a little bit easier time. I think Aslanov is going to see a jump in play by mid-year once the meta shakes out, because I do think he does represent an alternative list you can play into the ranged meta. I think Yana is still going to be incredibly strong because she allows you to play partially into that ranged meta, but gives you the best armor cracking in the faction. She has really high threat potential, really allows you to play an explosive game where you can get an attritional lead rapidly, which is really what Old Umbree needs to do. Old Umbree does not want to play a long game. Their pieces are not designed for it.
Right, and they're very prone to running out of gas.
Yes. Where if you can have rocket fuel, which is your Lesnoys of the world, your Yanas of the world, remove as much as you can from the table before your gas runs out, you're in a much better spot to be able to play longer or just win the game on the spot there. Aslanov, I think, lets you have the best potential for a longer, more traditional attritional game, again, because of his ability to armor skew, his personal threat, those type of things. But I think with the way the meta is right now, and folks, frankly, wanting to play new things, I think his rate's going to be lower until the meta sort of shakes out. And I think then he may be a solve for
Yeah.
certain items that I believe are going to start to coalesce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's I think as we go through this data, like there are going to be, I think, a lot of casters like Aslanov where it's very important to look at what we're seeing, but it's very important to look at what we're not seeing. Aslanov with 21 games, but it's not all forms of invisibility have equal weight. And I think Aslanov is one of those sets of casters where I would expect probably 3 months of this guy keeping his head down to see how everything shakes out, and then reemerging to be an absolute force once things are a little more settled and he knows what he's teching for.
100%. And it's hard not to play He-Man when He-Man is going to be in theaters soon. So
yeah. One last legacy faction I did want to mention, if not go into in detail, is Army of the Western Reaches. If you look at the lethality drop in the game, this is a faction that seems supremely well situated, with Makeda Cats and Stay Death still being a force. Early games, we have sub-significant 5 games with Makeda, but she's showing a losing rate. Jalam's at 100% at 3. Like, this is so few games among this pool, but I think this is a faction to watch. What do you think?
I would agree completely with that. I think Scorn is uniquely settled into this metagame, both from an Army of Western Reaches standpoint, and I think Exalted still has a lot of legs. Both of these armies saw minimal changes. They have always thrived in these types of Wild West metas, and I don't know that we're going to see a full meta settling this year. I think this has the potential to be an incredibly volatile meta for a while, mainly because all of the caster changes, the lethality changes that we saw, and this packet being so live, I think we're going to be in a situation where a metagame is going to coalesce for a little while, and then folks are going to actively work to pick it apart, and caster pairs are going to change like socks.
Right. I think that's absolutely right. And just to respond real quick to Gaboran of Asura, just covering Retribution, they're really low sample size, but of that low, like no one in Legions of the Dawn is statistically significant. And Shadows, it's just Thyron and Gareth, so we're in a weird spot there. I think pairs are going to change like socks here, and I think as we go, we're going to start to dig into the gun line meta that's threatening to form up. I think of our prime factions, I think Storm Legion, or our new faction, Storm Legion has the least games played at 117.
Yes.
What do you think about these guys where they are? I am surprised to see their win rate as high as it is, because I'm not super bullish on this faction, and I've talked to a number of people who are not relative to other Signar options. What do you think is going on here?
So I think it's twofold. I think Signar is sort of our first peek at what play rates are going to look like when you have 2 viable options in your, from an army selection standpoint, meaning Storm Legion I think is actually fairly well positioned in the meta. I think Gravediggers is slightly better positioned with the same caster group, and I think if you like Signar, you probably own both of these armies, and if one is slightly better than the other, you're going to err towards the side that either you like better aesthetically or you like better from a competitive win rate standpoint. And I think right now Gravediggers is just in a better spot.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a significantly better spot, to be fair, but I think it's enough of a small percentage difference to see the dominoes fall the other way. I do think you're going to see their play rates pick up, because I think they're very well suited in the meta from a Storm Legion perspective.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you've got to you're going to see what's working as you start seeing some of that have tournament success, which we've seen. I think those play rates will start to tick up.
Yeah, and we see Calder doing very well, but the elephant in the room is actually just a raw game count on Kane 4.
Yes.
And this sort of segues into the gun line or the shooting concern, which is, and when you said like some of these suites of casters are better served in Gravediggers, we're looking at Kane and Sparkhammer, both doing quite
100%.
well. But like both Signar armies, Kane is like, I think right now in terms of alpha level threats, we'll see where we are in 3 months. But in terms of alpha level threats, Kane 4 is one of the alpha level threats in the game. And you know, when you're looking at like any boys in blue, you are the first name out of your mouth is Kane 4.
100%, and it should be. That caster is very well tuned. Is going to be, in my opinion, one of the meta defining pillars. And it's going to be something you have to have an answer for. And if somebody can come through and have a definitive answer for guns, then you might see a real meta shift. But I think the early meta is going to be defined by the gun lines.
Right. And one of the things too that's unique about Kane is like, especially in Gravediggers, he can lean into a shoot harder strategy, but almost what I would anticipate you're seeing in Storm Legion is this is a caster who supports well by killing and then like not really by supporting generally. So he's
Correct.
A little bit army construction agnostic and prefers things that support him rather than the other way around. I think when you're talking Kane in Storm Legion, especially, you are probably talking a more diversified list that is more caster independent. Which is a neat thing to see. I'm actually gonna jump ranks here and just go down to Gravediggers so we can cross compare the two. Once again, Kane standing out as the clear champion of games played here, sort of comparable position overall rankings wise and win percentage wise.
Yep.
Man, this seems like the faction that is queued up for him. So when we look at Gravediggers, you know, starting with Kane, what do you think about where this faction is?
I think Gravediggers are very well positioned. I think that they, and I don't want this to sound like it's about to sound. I think that with the changes they received in the update, I think they became a slightly easier faction to play. In terms of the mental load, both for the player and for the opponent. But in doing so, I think that they are exceedingly well positioned into the coming meta, and are going to be a defining pillar. Kane particularly, I think Hasker is seeing a lot of play because he has the best toolkit. I am not sold on
also
him.
because he was kind of awful last year, and
he was atrocious.
There's only up to go for this guy.
Only ways up to go. So we're going to see how Hasker plays out. But Kane, I think, is going to be there until Kane is kicked out of the meta by just being absolutely teched for and not able to overcome it. And I think the partial beneficiary will be McCoy. But McCoy was kind of a semi-staple last year. I think he's showing a good win rate this year, but his play rate is down because I think folks are just trying to understand if Hasker's real or not.
Right. Yeah. I think that's right. And I think McCoy is in that territory of Gravediggers casters. That's like, yeah, Kane is like hot, and everybody's trying to see if, you know, Buck is in fact here to win War Machine. And you know, like everybody knows McCoy is good. He was good last year. He remains good this year. Him and the Assault Striders getting a boost is very, very nice. You know, it's almost like, yeah. We get this guy is good. We're panning for gold right now.
Yep.
I think Roscoe is also a beneficiary of panning for gold because she was borderline unplayable last year. So
I was unaware she was played last year at all. So
Yeah. Wait, yeah, not much. I'll tell you that for sure. Yeah, and then I think Vargas, Jake's relatively low sample size. Sparkhammer, obviously very low sample size in this faction, although I think he definitely has a future here. One thing I will say that, I understand having to word the prospects of Gravediggers overall cautiously, because what you're saying is like the faction got less complex to play, and that was sort of one of the background things for like Gravediggers had like a weirdly low win percentage versus if you were at tournaments and you're like, oh good lord, Gravediggers, what do I do about this? Even saying like the obverse of that position sounds a little bit cruel. Like Gravediggers win percentage had a bit of a dummy problem, and like, okay, that's impolitic, but it does reflect the reality that like this faction had like its edge came from very, very complex interactions that required immense amounts of spatial visualization between you and your opponent to play around. Like, this was a faction that was kind of crap until your proficiency level reached a certain point, and it was out of control at that point. But they had a lot of native weaknesses that they were fighting around, like their power deficiency and all sorts of other things. And the faction has been normalized a lot more. I think the results of that, and it's showing up in this early win percentage, even if we take Kane out of the picture with his large sample of games, we're still at 122, more than Storm Legion, and we're still seeing a really generally positive trajectory to the faction. Yes. I think there's one of the effects is like Gravediggers, if you haven't hit the proficiency milestone yet to make the faction ridiculous, will feel less awful to play with.
100%.
And if you're playing against it, it will feel less awful to play against people who've passed that proficiency milestone. I still think there's huge room for skill expression in this faction because they still have many of those same elements, but like you don't have to dance through crazy hoops like you did last year to get them to tee off. So even the players who are very good, we're talking about offboarding their mental cycles and freeing it up for strategic concerns rather than having to go through ridiculous micro.
Yep, 100% agree there. One other note I will make. I think Vargas is very well poised. I think he's not being played because he essentially was the main staple of the faction last year.
Yeah, he was the God King.
And I think you will see, much like the potential for Azanov, I think there's a potential that Vargas becomes an answer as the meta coalesce.
Right. Yeah, because he still has Rockwall, which is like the best spell on the rack, one of the best spells ever printed. He lost some tools, but I think honestly, Vargas probably, I think we're looking at a play style constriction for this guy, but not really a ton of lost overall power.
Correct.
And that like you'll probably see less blatantly aggro Vargas-less, but he will be leaning into his strengths of like, no, let's play a very conservative, very safe, very slow game where I'm just going to walk you down.
Yep. And because he has such a different toolkit than the rest of the faction, he allows you to play that more list chickeny game where the opponent has to figure out what are you going to drop and what do I have to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he remains he's like the most pronounced holdover of that high skill expression game. So, over his relatively small sample size, I think it's going to be like Vargas remembers the old ways.
Yes.
Let's talk about the one we skipped over, Necrofactorium. For me personally, this is a faction I have been hearing not much enthusiasm about, despite a pretty good win percentage. What are your thoughts on Necrofactorium?
So Necrofactorium had the most obvious nerfs of any of the factions. over the core with the loss of the rack, with the loss of Carnage, the loss of the Malefactor.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of factions that lost Carnage, Necrofactorium did take a distinct number of mat hits to its staple units.
Yes, their malefactors went to proper cost. And
wait, you're telling me sword and board malefactors were undercosted last year?
I know
I am in shock.
We are all shocked and appalled. However, the faction does have a better than average win rate at 53% still. I think Subsera is incredibly well placed into the meta as a whole. Nikane got much better with her changes and her glow up.
Oh yeah. Her specific spell list to her, like, man, that's nice. That is a nice spell list.
And Decithus, who does lose a bit of his traditional play style, as shown in his win rate, I do think, and it is a small sample size, I do think there's some tech there with the fact that half of this field is going to be living at any given time.
Yeah.
And anytime you have a soul caster with the ability to collect souls, it does not go well for the opponent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think one thing too, where like the impact of, like, we're early days right now, but I think the impact is waiting to be felt of the character super heavies.
Yes.
Deathjack is gonna do a lot to offset your rack losses. And he's not at his cost point, he's not the most economical thing, but boy, do you get a lot of value out of putting that model in a list.
You get a ton of value. The other thing is, because your other jack options are not immediate buttons you want to be hitting all the time, having an efficient heavy, even if it's a little more, or having an efficient super heavy, even if it's more points,
right,
can just be better.
Yeah, pound for pound, it's a lot, but the ratio, like, or rather, the raw cost is a lot, but pound for pound, what you're getting out is also a lot. Like, that's also a really good ratio.
It's really good. It's the same reason why you're seeing a lot more Hellraker in the faction, in that it's a very efficient use of 26 points. Right. It's able to sustain in a location better than 2 malefactors can currently. So for equivalent points, so I think it's a spot where Crix is learning how to Crix again. I was joking with Blake as we were looking at a list that he was working on, and I joked that, of course, the solution for Crix now is just to Crix harder, and that's exactly what his solution is essentially being. So as much as we dismissed Mechanothrall, Subsera still does play Mechanothralls incredibly well.
Well, and they're so damn cheap.
They're still 6 points.
Yeah, I think this is almost like the macrocosm of Aslanov's microcosm. Like, this is going to be a faction that keeps its head down, but once it knows like the kind of profiles it has to defend against, like, it's really going to come for you once the meta's in a more settled place.
100%, and I think it's absolutely going to be a major weapon in team tournaments. Absolutely. Because when you can curate Crix's matchups, oh buddy.
Yeah. Wait, in past editions of the game, and you know, I've talked to many longtime veterans, and most of them have come back with like, yeah, Crix and Scorn in Mark II, Mark III, but particularly Mark II, were like low-key really similar factions. One was doing dudes, one was doing war beasts, but by and large, you had to beat your opponent on positioning because you didn't out-threat them and you couldn't shoot them, so you just had to play strategically against them. And, you know, when there were major metagame fluctuations, like an edition change or a major balance pass, which Mark III saw plenty of, like,
hey Alex, I gotta jump for a minute.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can vamp here.
Cool.
Yeah, when you saw a major shakeup Scorn was also often in the position of keeping its head down. So Scorn would disappear for months at a time, where it's like, I don't know what we're trying to deal with here. Are we trying to deal with spell assassinations? Are we trying to deal with heavy spam? Are we trying to deal with crazy gun lines? Like, but once the meta settled, Scorn was always a powerhouse. Jay Beatnik, why did you stop playing Necrofactorium, everyone? Is this supposed to be like a Leon the Professional, like everyone? I think they're keeping their heads down. I will say another surprise, well, not surprise, I mean, we all kind of knew it was headed this way, was Kythos dropping down to a low win percentage. He's had a lot of changes, and I think it's not that Kythos is bad, because Kythos is still quite good in dark operations, and he was with his current spell list. What we may be seeing in this Kythos drop off is just that people aren't adapted to the new metagame, and in fact, like, what the probable almost certain gun line future is hostile to Kythos right now. Like this hopefully transitory period of gun supremacy we're moving through is just innately hostile to Kythos. But yeah, Sub-Zero doing very well, Decathus doing incredibly well. This is exciting. Oh man. Well, so while we're waiting for Joe to return, one of the surprises for me, is, I talked about things like Aslanov that you're not seeing. One of the surprises for me is things that you are seeing that you expected to be seeing, like, oh, this is so hot, and it turns out it's kind of crappy. If I had to pick, so I've been trying to find this where I can. But the most obvious example that's front of mind for me is actually in Winter Core. That everybody was like, oh, Baronova Arcade, all these things. She got buffed in a lot of ways. Baronova in her current incarnation is kind of bad. And for me, it's been gut level intuition, that this caster is like, boy, it seems like she should be good, but she's actually not. And like, even when I played against her in years past, even when 2024 Mastodon was at its prime, like, this caster seemed a lot more menacing, but like in practice, she's kind of like a nothing burger. For me, it's been a gut level intuition. I've been talking with my team, and they're like, you got to watch Battle Driven on this, because they articulated exactly, which is she picked up some interesting spells, but they're very, very difficult to apply or extremely costly to apply. And in when you look at her toolkit of what's going to go off basically every turn, the only reliable things are her feat and the signs of importance to hit. And the question is that enough to win the game off of? And if you tell me that, like, straight to my face, I'm like, no, obviously not. Why would you think this? So I think there are some other casters that are probably gonna fall into a like surprise losers of the shakeup. For me, surprise loser here, just on the data over 26 games, is Kirax. I am genuinely shocked to see this guy win only a hair over a quarter of his games. Now, some of that's maybe down to, the Trichomerax not being exactly what it once was. But Kirax, over the time he's been available, has really seemed like a man for all seasons to me. And I'm personally surprised to see him down this low. Shadow Flame Shard generally hitting about the balance point at 51%. huge volume of games concentrated on Lilith and Valix, which is not surprising. These two are like most improved, and if you're panning for gold, like, yeah, really give these a look. I personally love where both of these casters are. If you guys were here with us over Captain Con, got to watch a game with Derek Senstrom playing Valix into Michael Ireland's Virus 2, and like, man, this caster is wild nowadays. Like, going from being nothing to like, you see a big bundle of rules and like, okay, these seem like situational crazy abilities. Like, you gotta live real dangerously to use them. I sure hope that works out in practice. And then you actually see Valix like play, and you're like, oh yeah, this works. Lilith, obviously good. Like Hasker, she had nowhere to go but up. So this is an exciting one. Oh boy, now we're on to my specialty. 49% for the Brine Blood Marauders. This is so we see once again like panning for gold numbers. Oh, Firequill is on top. Oh, Boggity Bomb is on top. What a surprise. These casters were borderline unfieldable before. I will say Firequill has improved noticeably and runs a very interesting game plan. I have my reservations about him, despite speaking positively. In a lot of ways, he feels like Timu Kane. Playing the two back-to-back in online leagues and alternating between the two, I definitely feel the difference. I'm not going to lie to you on that. Ragemonger and Foulblood stepping in under statistical significance, not a huge surprise. Foulblood sort of wound up eating a lot of Boomhowler's old niche, but I think also like people like Andy Bev were just bored with this caster last year, and it's completely understandable to me. Ragemonger likewise was everywhere. I remained a Shadow Tongue and Boomhowler purist. Boy, is new Shadow Tongue not connecting right now, though, at 39%. I still have to put in table time with him, but that's kind of surprising to me. Boggity Bomb getting a lot of fielding. I think one thing that's going to be interesting about Boggity Bomb in the coming year is how he does in Kithgard. Oh, hey, we got Mr. Joe back. Sorry, I was jumping around without you, but let's kick back to Shadow Flame, because I think this is true for both Shadow Flame and Brine Blood. So we got Firequill Boggity Bomb topping the charts for usage.
Yep.
Lilith Valix in Shadow Flame. So there's definitely panning for gold. Was there any statistical standouts for you in these two factions?
Yes. Couple of things here. Again, Lilith and Valix are the new toys on the block. But if you actually look at raw power and win rate, Nixian is right there with them. 61% win rate for Nixian. Nixian represents one of the better answers in the meta to the gun meta that we're seeing with the Cloud Wall that she's able to produce relatively well. Her overall tools for assassination got better with Cinderbacks going down, with the relative power of sprays, the fact that most of the ranges on the sprays in the faction did not get reduced because they were already in the quote-unquote fair range. She has a lot of potential, and the feat getting better simply because, again, pray wherever you need it does a ton to aid in that lethality. The other bit to consider is Shiris is still at a 50% win rate. Her play rate is very low. However, her toolkit is better, as odd as that sounds, with a feat that was nerfed. But getting Mirage and Distraction is huge.
Right, yeah.
And so I think you'll see Shiras come back into vogue, because Shiras always comes back into vogue. I think Lilith is going to be here long term. Valix, I think he's going to be a fun toy for a little while. The 17-inch personal assassination is always a lot of fun, particularly in a faction that wants to reach out and touch you. But I don't know that he's going to stand the test of time in the meta the way I think Lilith and Shiras are going to.
Right. That's an interesting shot call on Shiras. Do you think we're, as the metagame shakes out, do you think we're looking at a return to like 2024 patterns of play with her, where it's very much Wyvern focused, or even double Wyvern and, like battle group kind of thing?
Yes, I think that we're going to play more small ball with her. Although I do think she runs a very mean trike.
She's still one of the casters that actually like makes it sing still.
I like the Kyrax trike a bit more, which is funny. That was actually the trike that I was on most of last year.
Right.
Was the Kyrax trike, because I like it to be a little more active, and I think with the changes in the overall lethality and the changes to its survivability, I still like it in Kyrax quite a bit, but I like Shiras' toolkit better without it, simply because she can just then lean fully into the stealth skew, which is, I think, where she wants to be from a meta perspective. Again, doesn't help into the two big gun ghosts, which are, again, Kane and Kishtar, but does help everywhere else.
Well, it does also certainly off-gas some of the pressure from Kishtar, because Kishtar, while she can see through all your stealth, she has to spend resources to do it, and it means there are some things she's not doing that you can capitalize on in return.
Yep.
Which I think is always very good.
Yeah, it does help take a little bit of the gas out of the situation, and the fact that, again, adding Mirage to her toolkit cannot be understated. In terms,
she's not just debuffing your threat range, but in addition to Hunter's Mark, she's actually bringing an offense neutral ability to extend the threat range of some of those small ball heavy hitters like the Wyvern.
Yeah, and it's a big deal, because she can play the Wyvern more aggressively than Lilith can. Obviously, Lilith can slipstream anything else in the army, but she can't slipstream a Wyvern, because slipstream only works on large base. But Mirage works on everything.
Yeah. Man, I'm just gonna like break for a second here and say, like, I just had like a wild man thought. Like, this is probably not true, but I think there's interesting technological discovery here. If you're a Chimera player and like looking to deal with Kishtar stuff, like, it's possible this doesn't pan out, but we're all panning for gold right now. Maybe give Zacchaeus a look.
It's not the worst idea.
Because if you can put Zacchaeus somewhere where he's like no bullshit to remove and is like really annoyingly placed, the fact that you're stripping Eyeless Sight and Pathfinder from an Orgoth army might actually be quite punishing for them, or at least consume enough resources that you have space to connect.
Yeah, it can be a big deal. He's a little more palatable at 5 points. But again, if you can get him, he was
egregiously miscosted at 6. At 5, it's like, okay, I could kind of see it now.
I can see it, and again, it does make your mirrors better, because again, if you can turn off Pathfinder on a Chimera army, it's also something of delight as well as flight. So that, I mean, there's a lot of use cases for him shutting down a lot of abilities. And his output isn't terrible. Again, his speed is good. It's a place to explore for certain.
Yeah. All right. Hopping back to Brine Bloods. Oh, Brine Bloods actually coming in under Storm Legion for games played, which, if I'm honest, is not terribly surprising to me. Any shockers for you here in Brine Bloods?
The biggest shocker to me is that the funny thing about the Fire Quill lists that are being played now is those were the meme list that everybody was trying to make work last year.
Right.
And now they are very real,
Mm-hmm.
which is great to see. It's very exciting when a caster finds its place. And I think that they did an amazing job designing the Brine Bloods faction in the update. I am very happy with the fact that Brines, as much as I joked about them in previous years, I think they are finding their footing as a very real meta threat.
Right.
And the big part is, and we see a 55% win rate with Quill now, I see that going up. And the primary reason is the players in Brines don't have a lot of experience with Quill to this point. It
Right.
just wasn't played. And as folks get reps,
It was not the done thing, as an aristocrat might say.
exactly. And as folks find reps with Quill, that number is going to go up.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, having played a decent amount of Fire Quill at this point, like my precision strike / bird's eye privilege is very, very real, where I'm like, Fire Quill's gonna aim and shoot your guys. Like, do you have line of sight around your king? I'm like, oh god damn it, that's a thing I have to do.
Somebody played too much Shadow Tongue.
So much Shadow Tongue.
But at least now you're undead when you're playing him, so just not him.
Do you know that turns off a lot of rules, which is pretty handy? I am really annoyed as the metagame's like sole surgeon respecter that it actually stops your surgeons from healing, and I'm quite annoyed by that.
Yeah, that was sort of a staple of your game.
Also a weird thing, low key gaining the field marshal undead thing actually low key sabotages your Shadow Tongue matchup into infernals, because now the guardian gets the armor bonus against your warriors, versus like in the past you were very much used to all your warrior models just incidentally picking up heavies and colossals because they could. Now it's not a guaranteed thing. So I guess what you could say is, like, I'm a little bit bitter about the gift I was given not being nicer.
That is acceptable, and you should take that position as a Brine player. 100%. You have earned it.
But where you joined back in on was Boggity Bomb is also high in the charts for this novelty seeking phase. I don't know that he'll make a huge impact on Brines. The loss of Fury strength actually affected this caster quite acutely.
Yes.
Both for personal output and for just by natural inclination, he tends to be a warrior supporting caster anyways. I think the biggest impact of this guy is probably not going to be in Brines. I think it's going to be in Kithgard.
I think he's going to be an absolute monster in Kithgard, and that's just with the rules that are public.
Right. Yeah. We're looking at like a unit, 2 solos, and 3 beasts. Like, I'm pretty sure Boggity Bomb's going to be nasty here.
Like, again, the jungle troll and him are like best friends.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You could not have come up with a better beast.
Yeah, and even that 1 point bombard cannon is like, oh man, this is an awesome fire starter target. And I think your default for a lot of the Mistborns is gonna be the 0 point cannon, because you're focusing your efforts elsewhere. But like with Boggity Bomb, pay 1 point to set 4 things on fire every turn. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Boggity Bomb does long term.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll be the staple in Brines, but I do think he's going to be an absolute monster in Kithgard. And Kithgard as a whole, I think, is going to impact this meta immensely.
I think I'm right there with you.
The fact that we know one of the feats is going to be just reduce your line of sight to 8 inches. That is such a warping ability. And the fact that it's going to be table wide.
Oh yeah, both the casters released so far have global feats. Their control area doesn't enter into it.
Yeah, which is a brave new world. As much as we've joked that we're in a brave new world, that Kithgard are going to be a brave new world, and I think that they're going to be a faction that is going to feel a lot like Gravediggers did last year, in that people are going to be have a very difficult time winning with them until they don't, and then they're not going to lose.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the level of exoticism is going to be like what Gravediggers introduced on top of Gravediggers' level of exoticism. And like, I haven't seen anybody talk about the fact that you get 3 burrow markers that your opponent literally can't take off the board, but you have, just for showing up, 3 30-millimeter placements that you can say your models cannot physically stand here. Like, among other things, like Kithgard players are going to be able to abuse defenses in some really bizarre ways.
Yep.
And I think Kithgard players are going to be able to uniquely abuse Colossals. That if your Colossal has to go to the point of, oh, I've got to send it in. Oh, there's literally nowhere I can physically place it. Uh-oh.
I have no landing zone, and getting really good with those placements is going to be part of the skill set for playing Kithgard well.
Yeah. I would not be surprised to see that change next year, because I read that and I'm like, this is bananas. I don't think anybody realizes how bananas this is.
It's going to be untenable, and I do believe that it will not survive past the January of the following year. But we're going to enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's run through the rest of the big Impact Prime factions. This is one, to me, with how their casters came out, how their model stat lines came out, how unaffected this faction was by the lethality drop. I am surprised, and with so many games too, to see the only caster cresting a 50% win rate is Moraine of all casters.
Yes.
I like while you were off, I was talking about, like, you know, the unanticipated losers of this game. Like, I think Baronova weirdly is in kind of a place where, like, a really bad place where she's bad for sort of fundamental reasons. I would have said, before looking at this data, like, oh yeah, Moraine and Baronova are, you know, being crapped together in the, you know, Shim Sham caster gulag. And yet, in the short term, she's the only one in this faction breaking even, when I would expect everybody here to be going gangbusters. What do you think?
So I think this is a product of the lethality drop, and but not for the reasons you think. While they are unaffected, and they get to retain their elite stats, as an Elfarmy should, honestly, in my estimation. They also have the lowest volume of attacks per capita.
That's very true, yeah. Especially if you're going in for those premium stat line undead models. Like, the cats are the only ones that aren't, you know, point for point embarrassingly poor on their volume of attacks.
Exactly. And in a faction that is as elite as it is, every miss hurts more. Mm-hmm. in your dice pool and in your dice roll. But a lot of the response, at least in terms of list constructions that are winning right now, have not gone the elite route, and instead are playing trash meta.
Interesting. That's bananas.
When you're putting a lot of models on the table, you are, again, taking advantage of the fact that more misses are going to occur. And when you have a faction that is predicated on missing less but having fewer attacks, if I have 20 models and you have 10 attacks, at minimum, you need 2 turns to remove them all. Mm-hmm. And I think that's affecting their win rate more than anything else at this point. I think they're very good, and I think House Callus is going to find a way to win.
Oh yeah. I would be shocked in 3 months if anybody thought that this faction ought to be on a 47% win rate.
But I think right now it's a product of the trash meta is very real. They are still very elite, and I think folks are still trying to understand how to build that Serafeld list.
Yeah.
Once that
Ye-
Seraphel list gets cracked, that's going to skyrocket.
Yeah. I think she's most represented in novelty seeking domain. Her crit ability is fantastic, and I think there's probably two dimensions you go down. One is battle group crit, and the other is pure scenario control, where it's like
Yes.
Adeptus Ron 2.0. I think particularly that second iteration is going to be blindingly powerful, but it's also going to be another major, like the room for skill expression is actually going to be pretty decisive in your ability to play that at all.
100%. And I'm in agreement that style of Seraphel list is probably what ends up dominating.
Yeah.
But you've got to get to that skill floor with it, and people have been off of her for a year, so you have to get back on her, and she's a little different than she was.
A lot different. She's been different every year.
Yeah. Every year we get a new caster, and every year it's Seraphel.
Yeah. But I just want to take a second to harp on a personal pet peeve. Like, people talk about control casters versus beatdown casters in the control beatdown paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And how, for me, one of my like detector tests for like, do people really understand this concept, is when you talk about Ron. Because when people talk about control, they're like telekinesis, charge denial, etc., all these things. And it's like, okay, Ron is sending every signal that he's a control caster. Like, oh, he's going to try and play a long, slow game with you. And you watch it in practice, and like, he runs out of gas super fast. Actually, this is a caster that like wants the game to end on 2 or 3. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are going fast. And all these control tools are like, I see you're playing attrition. Get out of this zone. I don't care. Just get out of the zone. Don't touch this model that's contesting you over here. Oh, your caster moved wrong. I'm going to feat and just kill you. Seraphel in her current iteration just seems like another version of that, like, this game's gotta go fast caster.
Yes.
Especially with like, you set foot in my control area, you get pushed. That's like, man, that serves playing a fast game so well.
100%. And to be fair, the only caster in Callus that really wants to play a true attritional game is Hazaroth, because that's what he's doing. Everyone else is really, I mean, again, they're ret. They're here to beat you down. They're here for a good time, not a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also a point in the meta that's worth talking about with House Callus. Is I think that they, just as you say, they read more control attrition-y, but in practice, they are just trying to get the game to end.
Yeah, and Hazaroth is the exception. Even before, like, he's gone through iterations and little tweaks here and there. I've always said Hazaroth is very good, but you have to accommodate yourself to playing the most boring game of War Machine in existence.
Yes.
I think he's another one where like this low win percentage on the face of it is like, people are taking a look at this guy for the first time ever this year, and they have no idea how to play him because he's a space alien compared to these other casters here.
Oh, completely. There's a reason his hair is the way that it is.
Yeah. I think John was always pushing for a Hazaroth meta. I think justifiably so. I'm not a Dusk player, but I've been trying to carry that torch ideologically.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are going to be doing some rediscovering of Atlantis over this next year.
Oh, 100%. And there's a lot of gold in Dusk, and I think they're very well suited in a team composition. Because they can present some very interesting problems and some very specific solves. But you do want to curate the matchups that they aren't amazing into.
Yeah, absolutely. If 2 years of track record is any indicator, there's a faction that is great for teams and like will thrive in a team environment. But if you're doing that, don't play Moraine on it.
Don't. She's a trap. I love Moraine. I think Moraine is their best singles caster.
Absolutely.
She will absolutely be teched against when you think of Dusk, you're going to think Moraine, and therefore all of your answers are going to be around stopping Moraine, because you should be thinking of how to stop spellcasters as best you can.
Right.
And if you do that, Moraine's value goes to 0.
Yeah. Wait, I mean, among other things, I think we're going to see Sparkhammer come up. We're going to see Bodan come up. We're going to see Reznikova continue to ride high.
Yes.
One of the biggest problems she's going to face in a future metagame is she's actually in the same technology space as Morozov.
She sure is.
And she is going to catch a lot of strays from that guy existing.
Yes. And that is a very poignant call out. As somebody who's currently on a Morozov Reznikova pair, I won't be on the Reznikova part for much longer.
Morozov is so hot, though. I mean, I'm so impressed with that caster.
He is so much fun. Playing all the shifters is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different style of list. It's a very different style of War Machine, and you get to do a lot of fun things with it.
Mm-hmm. Did you catch Mike Sterling running quad Ursine shifted no Apex with Morozov?
Yes, and I'm
a
very
big fan of that batch of technology.
I like the little shifted quite a bit, although the Apex Ursines have been winning me over in actual gameplay.
Really?
I've been so
not impressed with them in practice, but tell me more.
So the primary reason that I've been enjoying them more is the 4 extra wounds that they have and the Defiant range. In many
going
cases,
all the way to 12 is a big deal.
In many cases, it lets them absorb 2 attacks better than the singular shifted do, because the quality of the guns that are in some of these gun lines, namely the Kane gun line in Gravediggers and the Kishtar gun line, they will trivially one-shot the baby shifted, so they don't get the second save anyway. Or they have some kind of knockdown technology, that kind of thing. The immovable object and the 12 wounds and the Defiant Rage really means the Ursine Apex is just a better piece longer term. If you're just,
like if it actually gets to come out and sticks, sticking is more impactful.
Correct.
Yeah.
Its sticking is more impactful. If the primary intention is just to have 4 shield guards for delivery, 100% agree it's the 4 shifted that you should be taking. Or the 4 shifted baby shifters. I am currently on a mix of 2 and 2, and that has been working all right. But I could see where I go one way or the other with it, and may add shifters to some of the other lists as well. Just because of how prevalent the guns are, and having Morozov as your singular solve into guns, while fantastic, also means that as he gets teched for, you run out of options.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's the golden mean may wind up being something like 3 and 1 as well.
Yes. 100%.
All right. Let me see. We got two factions to get through. I only pulled up the Rhett stuff for an audience member. Are you game to hit 2 more factions?
Absolutely.
All right. Just one quick one. I only pulled down Dark Operations to highlight Kythos here. Kythos still sitting at a quite favorable win rate, even over a relatively small number of games, versus if we go back up to Necrofactorium, this is a big fat disappointment over twice as many games.
Yes.
I think this is probably an artifact of people trying to run the old strat when it's being specifically victimized now, versus people down here in Dark Operations Kythos being in genuine explorer mode and it's not biting them.
100% agree. Kythos is very firmly a Dark Operations caster. There may end up being a build that will work for him in Crix, but I think that if you want to get actual mileage out of him, you got to pull out the monstrosities.
Yep. All right, winner core. We're actually looking at a chunky set of games, 242 with a 45% win rate. For me, there's some data confounds in here. Like,
Yep.
Vilcool benefits from a meta being stabilized, and not just a broader meta game, but specifically like the internal faction metagame of what's value optimal, because she's a caster that like plays around the margins ferociously, and if your margins are off, she's going to suffer. This is not surprising to me, even though I think she remains objectively very powerful. The rest of this is a mess for me. I think Sakura and Boris, if you are looking for like prima facie the most obviously like blunt instrument powerful casters in the faction, these are your top two. So it's not shocking to me that they're topping the charts, even with modest win rates, which I feel like is like under their potential right now.
Yes.
And then this stuff, we've talked about Baranova, who has the most played games and is not looking good. These other two are a bit like baffling to me. So what do you think about the winner core results here?
So Sakura doesn't surprise me at all. Dan Horzhnacki is my local. And Dan has been high on Sakura all of last year and was beating people up with Sakura in ways that people were not expecting when she was slow. And now they've made the army rocket fueled.
Yeah.
So
the biggest beneficiary being those solos, by the way.
100%.
Sergei Krull in particular was like unusably slow at speed 4. And like,
agreed.
At speed 6, this guy's pretty solid.
Speed 6, he's solid.
And at speed 6, the controller is like a really terrifying piece.
The controller is amazing. And
so good.
I'm glad that they updated the rule on it with the defenses to be not as egregious as it was for a couple weeks there.
Sure.
But it's still, it has one of the best sprays in the game.
Yeah. Spray 10, your ass is frozen.
Yeah, which turns out really good in this game.
Really good when it still gets Rat 6 from Kroll being a vet leader too.
Yep, and she asks a big box question. She asks a big armor question, and is able to play well into both gun lines and melee lines because of how hardy she is. So I think Sakura is here to stay. Borashek, I've loved this caster for a long time. I'm excited to see him with over a 50% win rate that I think is only going to go up because I don't think folks have enough reps with him. To fully understand his tech. Baranova is the elephant in the room in that she was the caster that was already decent, that got a glow up with a 16-inch control range, got to retain her no charge feat, and her reward is a sub 50% win rate.
Yeah.
I think part of it is folks are back on her and trying to make her work. That don't understand that she's still a 15-15 caster that is scared of life, and is in a meta that is very hostile to everything that she wants to do.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre to say with her theoretically getting much better. Tempest is a terrifying spell.
She got better on paper and worse in practice.
Yes, it is quite the phenomenon. I do think that eventually there will be a list that will solidify for her, that a few real experts are going to be able to utilize. I don't think that she is the training wheels caster that everybody thought she was going to be.
Yeah. I think that's right. Man, and also just like I've been a Baranova disrespecter for some time. One of the major omissions from her feat that a lot of people may not cognize is like mega impactful. You can still run.
You sure can.
That's even if you're minus speed, that's a big vulnerability for somebody who wants to be controlling and is, essentially driving almost all her focus into a single big ticket item every turn. if that doesn't really control you, like is her single big ticket item every turn going to win the game if you can nullify that feat? And it's probably not.
Yep. You just have to really survive against her the one turn.
Yeah.
Which is odd. And then she's running for her life and casting invocations every turn. Like that's what she does.
Yep.
And as hardy as winter core things are, they are not immortal and are not as sturdy as they are under Sakura. So yeah, she has a very high skill cap that I think somebody's got to work through, get the list, and then get the reps in with her. Savarin's win rate, I will almost assuredly go up.
Oh, guaranteed.
The biggest issue is people are forgetting that kill order doesn't add +2 to a hit anymore. And that is causing the bulk of the issues. But he's still a Rockwall. He's still a Rockwall caster.
Yeah. So I think something for these bottom 3 casters, like Vilkul's very technical. Savarin can be quite technical. Yana in Winter Core can be much more technical. I think these 3 casters have one thing in common, which is that they are all going to be massive beneficiaries of the release of Behemoth. 100%. Every one of these, like, these are the top 3 destinations for Behemoth, and I think that Jack's going to be just as faction defining as he was in every past edition.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And I think Yana's going to be folks understanding what the build is for her, and really taking advantage of and exploiting flank in new and interesting ways with Fury Strength.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Especially because she makes those guys faster just for showing up.
The biggest issue for her is that she occupies a similar space to Sakura, and I think the Sakura list is better.
Sure. I think that's fair enough. I mean, for me, obviously the Sakura Yana pair is going to be a little weird. If it was me, I would probably not even be looking at Baronova, and I'd be looking at some combination of these bottom 3 with some combination of these top 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really good spot to sort of focus your practice if you're panning for gold. I do think there's gold in them their hills. I would hold on Vilkul for a little bit. Because she, as stated, once the meta is known, you can tailor her list to attack it properly.
Yep.
Where Yana is,
and you essentially get valuable metagame feedback playing Vilkul for what Vilkul is going to look like by playing anyone else and seeing what punches above its weight, because that's all she's looking for.
Exactly. She wants to play all bangers.
Yeah. She's the premier good stuffs caster, and usually it's a bit of a slam when you say a caster is a good stuffs caster, but like Vilkul takes good stuffs and makes it sing.
Yes. Her ability to polish is very strong.
And it's amazing because she's one of those casters that does almost nothing to directly support the models in her army other than like, I exert pressure on the enemy caster and give you a cloud wall once, and like it turns out that's enough for you to really thrive. That's all you were missing, Kador good stuffs.
Yep, it tends to be how it works. Savarin ups your damage potential, ups your speed, a lot of good stuff with him. Again, highly technical caster.
Yeah, even with the loss of the rack, Savarin still has like a god tier spell list.
Yes. And he's just fun to play.
He is.
And again, Yana, I think, has a lot of raw potential. Once her list gets fine-tuned, look out.
Yeah, I would love to see her really be a staple in Winter Core for a change. That would be very cool.
She is a gorgeous caster too. I'm still painting that model. I'm trying to paint it to a competition level, so it's been a slow slog.
Oh man, yeah, I'll bet. You still got her in like pieces, like waiting to do the assembly until.
No,
she's got a lot of undercut there.
She's assembled, and we're just working very diligently by hand to get all the undercut boxed in.
Patience of a saint. All
We
right.
try.
Let's take it home with Orgoth. Holy crap, none of these casters have positive win rates. What is going on? Oh my god.
Orgoth is very good right now, but finding
They're so good. It's unreal.
But finding finding your mark with the faction is proving to be a little bit difficult. One of the things I think we're seeing is Harusk is very bad at the moment. I don't think he's going to be bad for the entire year. I think he's going to be one that finds his stride once the meta coalesces. But right now, it's rough sledding for the old boy.
Yeah.
Which is tough to say for a 14-inch control Carnage caster, but everything the faction wants to do isn't where he wants to be.
Right, yeah.
Sabrith is a very difficult caster to play, but when you play her well, she is going to sing. So part of this, I think, is folks finding their feet with Sabrith and finding her feet as the main caster in the faction. Butcher is an excellent caster, very strong skill set, very good into the meta. His biggest issue is he is remarkably easy to have die inadvertently before he gets to do his thing.
Right, because if he doesn't do his thing, 13-18 is kind of trashy.
Exactly. And then there's Kishtar. And Kishtar, to me, has the biggest glow up in the faction and also has the most potential to have this win rate skyrocket.
Yeah.
Her issue right now is folks are trying to find the balance between how strong a gun line she needs to dial up to be effective, efficient, and very dangerous.
Right.
And
she's in search of her point of diminishing returns.
And still have enough scenario presence to not be trivially survived.
In the back channels, I am starting to see Kishtar lists emerge that are like, yeah, we run some gun tyrants, but the main feature here is we run a million bazillion single wound dudes.
You sure do, because that feed is for the round.
It's for the round, and I think like your eyes will glaze over when somebody puts strike reavers or assault reavers in front of them. But like if you really sit and like wake your brain up, you're like, oh, these units are really good and maybe marginally undercosted. What if we brought what if we brought 1 trillion of them?
What if we brought 1 trillion of them? What if I made one of them Def 15? What if I duck and covered it? And what if it just was here acting like an infernal snake, ready to take something from you or force you to overcommit, and then I take everything you overcommitted?
Right, yeah, particularly strike reavers, because they have so many attacks and their defensive stats are so good to begin with. Like you just put a standard in the middle of that, and it's like you just got a passive -1 armor buff fighting around this unit made obstruction that it's not worth your time to attack.
Oh, and that reminds me of something else that hasn't been fully explored yet in Winter Corps. Just to go back a second, the Winter Corps infantry is underplayed right now, and as soon as folks start playing that and getting an understanding of how powerful refilling that unit is every turn, we're going to see some win rates come up on Winter Corps.
Right. And even if you lose your weapon specialists, through take up or whatever, as long as you hold the flag and every turn, particularly if you're playing on the flanks, like, oh, there's a 40 mil objective here and it's really far away from everything. By the way, what number time is it you've attempted to kill these 4 defense 13 guys this game? Is it the 4th time? That's a big deal. That's such a big deal.
Yeah, it's an underexplored space. And again, single-wheeled infantry, as much as we joke about them, are very real right now in this edition.
Yeah, I think so. Effectively getting +1 defense was such a deal maker for so many of them.
Yes.
Oh man. All right. So does that wrap us on factions that I think are in the statistically significant prime consideration right now?
It looks like it. We can make one note on Thornfall
Yeah.
Alliance, which is Sturm and Drang is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah, I forgot their Helga, one game, 100%.
It's only going to go up, and it's just going to be Brad hitting the Helga button.
yeah. Helga games, 300% win rate. I have had in past editions, I have had Brad beat me so bad with Helga one that he took an extra win off me on the tournament record sheet out of one game. So it's possible.
I can believe it. I also think that Helga's stock goes up as soon as the Cav gets released.
Oh, absolutely, 110%.
But Sturm and Drang has the most games played. He absolutely should. Two amazing spell lists on one caster.
Mm-hmm. This is a caster
one of the best
that
feats in the game.
It's so nuanced to play this caster.
Yes.
Though. Like you're not going to pop the seal on him and come out proficient right away.
No, same thing with Thornfall. They are a real army, so I think you're going to see this win rate go up as people gain proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an army to watch going forward.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's the factions by the numbers. Any other observations or last notes for people to take away in terms of where we're headed?
I still think that there's a lot of gold to be panned in legacy factions. I don't think that those are being explored enough.
No, yeah, because we're looking at like factions that are played less than low performing casters in prime armies for the most part.
What has been heartening as an old Menite is the Men-Off win rates, although the sample size is small, are very heartening.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there's some gold in them, their hills. We saw it a little bit last year too, particularly in team formats.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Amon is getting any games warms my heart, as that is my favorite caster of all time. He's not good, but he's there. Still the best abs in the game.
Still the best. This used to be. I loved accumulating. I haven't kept up with the new lore as much, but I loved accumulating like weird War Machine lore tidbits. Like the oldest living character in the game that's still in their original body. A lot of people say is Karchev. It's Naresh. Yep. In the game, there are two warcasters with warcaster abilities who do not have an Arcantric Turbine, i.e. the thing that generates the power field that deflects damage. It's Vlad, because he's wearing like 1,000-year-old magic armor that's literally better than warcaster armor. And it's Amonid Raza, and he's just buff.
Yes.
He doesn't have an Arcantric Turbine. He just shrugs off bullets.
He is literally One Punch Man. He just did 1,000 sit-ups and it worked.
Yep. Oh man. All right. Well, I think that wraps us out. Joe, thank you for doing this this numbers crunchy segment with me. This has been a ton of fun, and I think has given the people watching some really good insight here. Also, thank you very much for stepping up and being on the USA committee this year. Your influence will be palpably felt, and I think we got we're stepping into a great year. Very much thanks to your efforts. So,
well, I appreciate that. I thank you for having me on the show. As always great to talk numbers with you, Alex.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again soon when we have more to report.
Oh, 100%. We should try to do, if the timing works out, we should try to do a pre-Adepticon show and do
that would be a good one. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's pencil that into the ledger. And for everyone out there, thanks for tuning in. Keith, take us away.